Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, warshippers of all ages, welcome to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we're going to take our first stab at having a look at all of the various ships that have come to testing, to live testing here in Update 10.11 in World of Warships, starting with Tier 6 Premium British Cruiser HMS Dido. That's right, it's at long last, Dido is here. This is one of the most requested ships in the game. It's one of these things, you know, you look at a ship like Leander in the tech tree, and you look at Dido, and you're like, oh, they could have kind of gone either way here. Leander made it to the tech tree, Dido didn't, and people have been asking after this ship for literally years, ever since the British Light Cruiser line came out, and finally, here she is. Now, we've seen a bit of a preview of this ship already. Just a few weeks ago, I did a first look at Tier 6 Pan-Asian cruiser Ramat, which is basically built around the hull of a Dido-class ship. But there are some key differences between those two ships, not the least of which is the main battery. You might remember that Ramat's main battery was made up of the British 113mm guns, whereas Dido's main battery here is her historically accurate 133mm main battery guns. And we'll talk about that as we go. But there is a difference in the two ships. I read or heard a rumor somewhere that they might be giving the 133mm guns to Ramat as like an upgrade, in the sense of, as you play through the tech tree, you have a choice between the gun calibers. I want to believe that because I think it would be more historically accurate. Will they do it? I don't know. Wargaming has historically had a lot of struggles properly balancing ships that have multiple gun calibers in the tech tree. Go all the way back six and a half years, way back to the original release of the game, and you'll find 155 Mogami versus 203 Mogami, an argument that still goes on today. What other examples are there? The high-end German battleships, Friedrich der Grosse and Grosse Kurfürst, both have, it's a very subtle difference, but there is some difference between the 406mm guns and the 420mm guns. What's another example? I had another one and it's gone. Anyways, bottom line is, they have done this before. They've really struggled with it. However, we're still talking about destroyer caliber guns here at the end of the day. So what I believe is going to happen here, Dido's going to keep her 133s. I don't foresee them doing anything different here, but I think Ramat over in the tech tree might end up with access to both guns. So if you're kind of holding out hope that Ramat might be decent or might be better or whatever, this ship might give you a little bit of hope. So let's look around and let's have a talk through Dido. As we do, survivability, 23,600 hit points. Ding, 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 worst in tier. That's right, kids. Dido is not a ship with a lot of health to throw around. She's tied for worst in tier with Ramat, of course, her nominal tech tree cousin over in the Pan-Asian tech tree. And that 4% torpedo protection, of course, is, well, there's a lot of ships in this tier. Most light cruisers at Tier 6 have basically no torpedo protection. So don't take torpedoes. That's really bad. But yeah, not a lot of health to manage in this ship. So you've got to be very, very gentle with her. And this is something that Ramat suffers from as well. This is the first portion of this video is going to be just like the ship you might have already seen if you watched the video, and we'll talk through that. So survivability, armor layout. Yep, you're looking at 13mm extremities and 89mm belt. This is exactly as you would expect, the exact same armor layout we saw earlier on Ramat. The only saving grace to Dido's armor scheme is that, one, her citadel is not that large, right? It starts behind her superstructure, basically encompasses the machinery spaces right underneath the funnels. All of her magazine spaces are excluded from her citadel. And we talked about this on Ramat too. So basically, if you take big battleship shells anywhere in the forward portion of the ship, they'll be at worst, they'll be full pens. There is no citadel up here to hit. The farther aft the shells fall, the more likely you are to take that big citadel hit. And you can't take many citadel hits in this ship. I mean, the barbettes just stop. I mean, that looks so strange when you lay it out. Anyway, so yeah, she's a light cruiser. She's not going to take many hits. That's not what she's good for. Maneuverability and concealment. Maneuverability is identical to Ramat. You're looking at 32.3 knots, 580 meters on the turning circle, 6.5 seconds on the rudder shift. I'm trying to remember what I compared it to last time. There's really not a whole lot you can compare it to. These are like best in tier numbers. No other tier 6 cruiser has a turning circle this small and rudder shift this quick. So she ought to handle like a dream. I mean, not slow speed notwithstanding, she ought to handle great. One of the things that I don't know is if she doesn't, hopefully Dido gets the British cruiser acceleration, which will allow her to go from stop to go very quickly. If she does, that with these handling characteristics could be a very noteworthy tool in her arsenal. Now, one place she does differ from Ramat over in the tech tree is her concealment. You see here 9.3 on the surface. That is wearing her permanent camouflage because premium ship comes with a permanent camouflage. If you strip that off of her naked, this ship has I got to find it again. I looked right at it. There was 9.5 surface detection. That means full stealth rig Dido at tier 6 gets down to an 8.3 detection on the surface. That is actually really noteworthy because the only other ship in this tier that's that stealthy is Pan-Asian de Premium Huanghe, also 8.3 on the surface. So that's interesting. It means that this is a ship that can really work into places that that you really might not expect to find her. Like, this thing will surprise destroyers. Like, she can't natively spot them, and we'll talk about that in a minute, right? But if you pair this ship with a destroyer spotter, or well, there aren't really any, there is no tier 6 radar cruiser, but maybe, oh, God forbid, div it up with an Atlanta. Oh, what a filthy, murderous division that would be. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Speaking of main batteries, let's talk about Dido's main battery. So you're looking at 3 super firing turrets forward, A, B, and C. And then as we head aft, you're looking at an X and a Y turret, also super firing all the way back here on the aft. All of these guns, British 133 millimeter guns. 6-second reload, 18 seconds on the turret traverse. Turret traverse, not really anything to get excited about, right? One of the things that we're used to seeing ships of this type is that, you know, the gun reload is usually in the 4 to 6 second range, and the turret traverse is usually around 8 to 12 seconds, right? Somewhere in there, because they turn pretty quick, sometimes faster. These are a little slow. You're actually going to want to consider investing some of the turret traverse skills for this ship. 18 seconds is fast enough. She shouldn't be able to outturn them, but she shouldn't be able to. But I have to qualify that with the saying, obviously I haven't played the ship yet. Even if I had, I couldn't talk about it yet. So let's just assume let's assume the worst and assume you're probably going to want to at least start off with some turret traverse skills just to make sure, and then see how it goes, see how it handles, and adjust accordingly down the road. 14.1 kilometers on the main battery is actually pretty good. This is like significantly better than Ramat, which I like, and I think this is a factor of moving from the 113s up to the 133s. 14 kilometers on the main battery is actually pretty respectable for a tier 6 light cruiser. Devonshire, which is a heavy cruiser, has a range about like this. You outrange London. You have about the same range as Dallas, which is 14.3. You're looking in the same ballpark. You outrange Leander over in the tech tree, which caps out at 13 and change. So this is not bad. Like, for a light cruiser, this is going to be more than workable. And if you work this ship in behind islands, you'll absolutely be able to get work out of these guns. They ought to have the arcs to do it, so that'll be nice. And yeah, you see there 1900 on the shell damage, 2550 on the AP. DPM wise, when you put this ship on the list with all the other tier 6 cruisers, Dido basically steals the king of DPM away from Nuremberg, basically. Nuremberg, basically, for HE shells, the high end of the competition, right, was Nuremberg, De Grasse, and Kekdun were all like 153 and change. So ironically, so was Trento with the SAP. Obviously, I can't get fires out of that. And Makarov, of course, because still in Nuremberg. So you had about 3 or 4 ships over 150,000 potential damage per minute out of their main battery HE shells at tier 6. Dido ramps that all the way up to 190,000. It's crazy. It's crazy. Now you might notice there the 22 millimeters of pen. That's going to feel real bad. Like, you're not going to get a ton of pen out of these guns. Like Atlanta at tier 7, this is a ship that you're going to strongly consider putting IFHE on. I will probably play it that way at first. Certainly most mid-tier battleships that she's going to encounter, you're going to want the extra pen, in my opinion. But we'll see. It might be the sort of thing that you might not necessarily need to get in, or you might actually end up getting just flat out more damage out of the fires, because as you move farther down the tiers, the fire coefficients get worse. One of the things get worse in the sense of it's easier to light fires on mid-tier battleships than it is on tier 10 battleships, obviously. One of the things I want to point out here, I'm going to compare this ship to an Atlanta a little bit because that's what she's going to feel like when you play her. You'll notice the 127 millimeter shells of Atlanta have a 5% fire chance. The 133 millimeter shells here on Dido have an 8% fire chance. So if you do take IFHE, you're only going to drop that fire chance down to about 4%. You can claw some of that back between Demolition Expert and Flags. You can get it all the way back to 6%. 6% fire chance with what would be about 26, 27 millimeters of pen. Something to be said there. So I feel like that's another decision players are going to have to make to themselves. Do you spend the points for IFHE? Do you not on this ship? I would recommend trying it first and then deciding for yourself later if it still is of value. That's honestly how I intend to give it a go, because I play with IFHE on my Atlanta. I feel like I want to try that out, and then I'll decide later on if I don't like it. Other offensive capability: torpedoes, pair of triples on each side here, right here by the after funnel. These are functionally almost identical to the torpedoes on Ramat. They are not, however, deep water torpedoes. These are standard torpedoes, 72 seconds on the reload, 16K on the alpha, 61 knots, 8 kilometers of range, 1.3 down the surface detection there. Most torpedoes in World of Warships are the values for speed and surface detection are set to give a ship without any kind of bonuses around 8 seconds of warning time when those torpedoes are detected. And that's where Didos come in here. They come in with about an 8.3 detection, 8.3 seconds of reaction time for opposing ships once they're spotted on the surface. That 72-second reload, though, is really, really nice, isn't it? Yikes, that looks like fun. Now, one thing that this ship can't do that her cousin in the tech tree can, of course, she's got an 8.3 max stealth, only an 8-kilometer torpedo range. She cannot technically stealth torpedo. However, if you're kiting away, right, if someone is sailing towards you, remember your torpedoes technically have a longer effective range because the opposing ship is sailing at them, so they don't have to travel quite as far. Depth charges. Yep, got some depth charges here. 2 racks here on the back, 5 bombs in a charge, 3,600 damage a pop. There we go. You can see a little rack here. Some is kind of hanging on the stern. Still not happy with how this works. I keep saying it, but maybe they'll fix it. It's there. AA defense, another place that she differs radically from her tech tree cousin. Dido's AA is not really anything to get excited about, okay? She's only putting up 2 flak puffs on 1260 damage apiece. This is fairly average for Tier 6, but it's not anything to get excited about, all right? This is thoroughly mediocre. And then as you look at the continuous damage, outer ring only goes out to 5.2 kilometers. That is a little lower than you would expect. 63 DPM, really bad, okay? And then, okay, you're thinking, she's going to make up for the middle ring. The British 40 millimeter, the Vickers, the 2-pounder Vickers are pretty decent. Yeah, well, not so much. Only 2.5 kilometers of range on that mid ring, which is bad. And then only another 63 DPM, which is bad. And then finally, she kicks things in with the Orlicons at the 2-kilometer mark. 95 DPM, still really not anything amazing, because by the time a plane is that close, you're already getting dropped on, right? So that doesn't feel bad. That doesn't feel very good. Her AA is unfortunately not anything to get excited about. Yes, that's typical of mid-tier light cruisers. I get it, but you could wish for better. You could absolutely wish for better. Quick look at consumables will reveal something you've pretty much already seen before. You're getting a repair. Damage control party. You're a ship in World of Warships, so there you go. You are getting defensive fire. This is a questionable choice to me. When I saw this the first time, I went, Wargaming, what are you doing, right? I realized that having defensive fire on a ship with mediocre anti-aircraft makes the AA feel better. The struggle that I have with it is that I would rather have a ship with above average AA, or maybe even average AA, and then when I push that defensive fire button, it feels really good. Right now, it's going to take the defensive fire consumable, in my mind, to make this AA feel impactful at all. And I'm not convinced it's still going to feel all that impactful. So I would rather this be a choice. Like, this ship with Hydro would be disgustingly awesome, wouldn't she? You could hunt destroyers in smoke. You could have Hydro up while you're sitting in your own smoke, and we'll get to that in a minute. I really wish she had a choice, but right now, she does not. And then last, she gets British Destroyer Smoke. This will be the second British light cruiser we've seen come to the game with this short duration smoke, the first being Tier 8 Premium HMS Belfast 43. Now, Belfast 43, this consumable caused a lot of headaches, right? People were like, oh my God, what are you doing? And in reality, I find it actually works out okay for the ship. It gives her a very shoot and scoot kind of playstyle. You pause, you fire, you fire, you fire. it's time to go, right? For example, this consumable lasts 40 seconds, and the smoke will disperse for 15 seconds. So you're looking at maybe a maximum. Let's say you have 50-ish seconds of effective smoke by the time it ticks out and lasts, and so on and so forth. So then, what is that? That's 8 salvos out of your guns. That's not bad. Like, you can get some real work done in that time. So, and then of course you've got to get moving again and get out of there. The trick with Dido, of course, is she's so fragile. If someone's pushing you hard or pushing you quickly, then you can find yourself in trouble if you ever slow down. But a lot of the opponents she faces at Tier 6, Tier 7, Tier 5 are not going to be fast. Think about all those big fat American standard battleships. This thing can't wait to melt one of those at the ground, and they will never catch her with their massive 20 knot speed. What is her concealment while she's firing the guns in smoke? They don't tell me this. Here we go. 3.9. Yeah, so then there you go. So I mean, you've got a nice little buffer there as well. That's nice to see. So yeah, that's HMS Dido. Not too bad right now. I'm excited to play this ship. I'm excited to put her through her paces. A couple of things I could wish for better, but all in all, she feels pretty interesting to me. She definitely is different than Leander over in the tech tree. So I'll say one of the kind of the bad things, what they've done with basically just about every single premium British light cruiser, they all have high explosive shells, which makes them fun to play, but makes them a real pain in the ass as captain trainers, right? Belfast 43, and now Dido all have HE shells. None of the British tech tree light cruisers have HE shells. So we start talking about, you basically have to have a completely separate captain for just these ships. The nice thing is you can have the same captain and just rotate it through the ships. Like the same captain used on Belfast can be used on Belfast 43 and Dido and so on, but it's still irritating, right? Because you won't use that captain anywhere in the tech tree at all. Crap. Anyway, guys, there's our first look at Dido. Hope you enjoyed that. Wash your hands. Be safe. I'll catch you next time.